Okay, so good morning once again, class. Thank you for waiting. And this week, we're going to discuss the first topic for the midterm period, and that is business and consumer markets and their buying behavior. Okay, so as I was saying, our topic for this morning is about business and consumer markets and their buying behavior. So these two class are of different types of markets, no? So we will try to determine later on what is the difference, or is there any differences class between business and consumer markets. So with that, let me give you the outline, no, for this week's discussion. So first, define the business market and explain how business markets differ from consumer markets. Second, identify the major factors that influence business buyer behavior. List and define the steps in the business buying decision process, and compare the institutional and government markets and explain how institutional and government buyers make their buying decisions. So primarily class, the focus of our lesson for this morning is we will try to know the meaning, no, of business markets and consumer markets as well as their examples. Okay, so business buyer behavior. So it refers to the buying behavior of the organizations that buy goods and services for use in production of other products and services that are sold, rented, or supplied to others. Also included are retailing and wholesaling firms that acquire goods to resell or rent to others for profit. So yung pagbili, no, ng mga organizations na to ng mga goods and services intended for sale, no, for renting, no, or bottom line class ay para makakuha sila ng profit, no, we call that behavior as business buyer behavior. So dito class sa business markets, ito yung klase ng mga markets na or mga firms or organizations na ang purpose nila sa pagbili ng products or services is not for their consumption, no? To further process that, to further manufacture that, to earn profit, no? So it's either for sale, no, for rent, no, or magsusupply din sila sa iba. So yun ang kanilang reason or purpose of buying the products and services. So we call them collectively as business market. So other term class for business markets, also industrial markets, no, tawag din natin sa kanila, or another is organizational market. So ito yung mga firms or organization na ang purpose again ng pagbili ng products and services ay gamitin pa yon, i-produce pa yon, or i-transform pa yon yung mga raw materials na yon para makapag-create pa ng ibang forms of products or services. And that is for what? No? They are aiming for profit. But if you buy or purchase something class, no, either goods or service, no, just for your own consumption, meaning hindi mo intention na ibenta ito, iparenta, no, hindi mo intention na maka-earn ka pa ng profit out of that purchase, we call naman that consumer market. So tayo, kasama tayo doon sa tinatawag na consumer market. So that is the main difference class between business markets and consumer markets. Kung si business markets, bumibili, no, for the intention of converting that or transforming that into some other forms of goods or services, no, for the purpose of earning profit. Si consumer market naman for own consumption, personal consumption na niya, kaya siya bumibili. So to continue, business buying process is the process where business buyers determine which products and services are needed to purchase and then find, evaluate, and choose among alternative brands. So business markets are again defined as all organizations that procure products or services that are consequently used in manufacturing other goods and facilitating service for other consumers. So clearly stated here, class, that their reason in procuring or buying products or services is to further produce that, further transform that to create other goods or services. So wholesalers and retailers are also considered as business markets since they also deal in the acquisition and sale of goods and services for further selling and renting. But you have to take note also class that hindi lang ito yung mga businesses na nagbibili tapos i-convert in manufacture no. Ang ibang kasama dito sa business market just like the wholesalers and retailers, hindi naman sila talaga ang nag-produce. Binili nila finished product na yan, but ang consideration kasi natin dito is the intention of buying. So si wholesaler pati si retailer, ang intention nila in buying is not for their personal consumption, kundi ibenta din uli ito. Okay? Or iparenta sa iba. Okay? So kaya nagpo-fall pa din sila doon sa category ng business markets and not for consumer markets. Okay? So tandaan lang, pag binibili mo yung isang bagay para gamitin mo na, kainin mo na, no? Pansarili mo, consumer markets yun class. Pero kung ang intention mo ay ibenta, no, mag-earn pa ng profit, iparent man yan, no, that is under the business markets. So business markets and consumer markets tend to be similar to some extent. So somehow there is also a similarity class, no, with regards to business markets and consumer markets. So for instance, in both cases, people are involved in the process of evaluating the necessity of goods and products and at the same time carry out different roles in ensuring that they attain satisfaction of such needs. So let's go first on the part class of business markets, no? So on their end, okay, they try to determine the needs and wants. So after determining the needs and wants of the consumer, they try now to suit that needs and wants, no? So they assure that they only offer what the consumers need or want. Sa part naman ni consumer market class, they try to make sure that what they purchase, no, is but their needs and wants only, no? So pareho silang nagde-determine, similarity nila, dina-determine talaga nila ang needs and wants. Kaya lang sa part ni business market, needs and wants syempre ng consumer. Kay consumer market, needs and wants mismo nila. So that's one of their similarities. Okay, moving on. Why bother? Okay, a business market comprises all the organizations that buy goods and services for use in production of other products and services that are sold, rented, or supplied to others. So the business market is huge, growing globally and involves many dollars and goods. So what are the four major types of business markets? So primarily, we have the four major categories class of customers under this business market. So we have producers, the resellers, governments, and institutions. So later on, no, let's try to differentiate government from institutions as market class, as market. So how are markets classified? So markets can be classified on different bases, of which most common bases are area, time, transactions, regulations, and volume of business, nature of goods, and nature of competition, as well as demand and supply conditions. So dito sa mga factors na to class, dito natin kadalasan binabatay no, yung pagka-classify ng markets. So traditionally, a market was a physical place where buyers and sellers gathered to buy and sell the goods. So dati, pag sinabi mong market, that only mean a place, no? The physical place kung saan nagkikita si buyer at si seller para mag-exchange ng goods or services. But today, when you speak of market, that can also mean people, no? Individuals. For example, to whom do you intend to offer your goods, no, or services? So you are referring to people class, individual. So not just for the place. Or also you could mean market as an opportunity. So in the near future, no, kung gusto mo mag-extend, mag-expand ng business mo, sino pa ang pwede mong makater na market? So that could also mean dito, opportunity. So not just place, not just people or individuals, but also market could mean opportunity. So the next topic that we are going to discuss are the characteristics of business marketing customers. So first, the nature and size of customer. So number of customers in business market is small. So 80% of the output is sold to 20% of customers who may number fewer than a dozen. Therefore, every customer is important. Because order sizes are large, it becomes economical to sell directly from manufacturers to customers, dispensing with the services of middlemen. So we learned this class in channel of distribution that the more middlemen we have, no, ano ba yung mga middlemen? Agents, brokers, wholesalers, retailers. So the more middlemen we have, the higher the price, no? So factory price, magpapatong si wholesaler, magpapatong si sino dito, si retailer, no? So bago pa makarating kay customer class, no, malaki na ang presyo. So might as well, no, mas maganda kung direct from the manufacturer or supplier down to the customer. So a large customer may buy 80% of the company's production, and hence the supplier needs to invest in close long-term relationships with its large customers. It uses dedicated sales teams to service such large accounts. Next is complexity of buying. So most business purchases involve large sums of money and affect the operation and profitability of the company. Therefore, most business purchases, especially if a company is making a new purchase, involve many executives at different levels. So kung merong bibilin class ang isang business, isang organization na medyo may kamahalan, almost lahat ng mga key officials sa loob ng organization ay ini-involve natin, no, for the buying decision. So the supply chain manager, for instance, no, also the marketing manager, production manager, purchasing manager, and even the chief executive officer or CEO may influence which equipment to buy. For example, if you want to buy, or if the company would like to buy an equipment, no, so all these key personnels here, no, key officials here, no, got to be involved for the decision making. So the sales task is to influence as many executives as possible and may involve multi-level selling by a sales team rather than individual salesperson. So the sales team should include people who have extensive technical knowledge of the product to be sold. So that is basic class. No? You need to know what you are selling. So kung alam mo yung binibenta mo, you'll have no hard time selling that. No? Kasi kung hindi mo alam, halimbawa may specifications, hindi mo alam, may magtatanong sa'yo, interesado, then and yet you don't know any, no, of that product. So parang nakaka-disappoint lang sa part ni buyer pagka ganun. So you need to know your product. So the chief executive of the seller company may also form a part of the sales team in case of high-priced products. Example given is the machinery. So, minsan, kahit na mataas na official, talagang involved siya, no? Talagang hands-on sa pagbebenta, no? Kasi, syempre, bukod sa siya talaga yung representative ng company, siya yung sa lahat sila, siya talaga yung may alam, no? With regards to that product. So, we can't afford to lose any deals class, no? So, minsan nga may-ari pa mismo ng company or pinakamataas na official ang talagang nag-hands-on sa mga ganong klase ng transactions. So, economic and technical choice criteria. So business buying is often made on economic and technical criteria because buyers have to justify their purchases to other members of the organizations who have very specific interest in the product being bought. So lahat ng binibili natin, dapat practical, no? Yung presyo, no? Competitive, mapapakinabangan ba to ng entire organization? So for example, operations people, those under the operations department class, would be interested in knowing whether the output from the machine would be large enough to meet their production targets. So kung merong binabalak na bilhin ang company na bagong machinery, halimbawa, so syempre, yung mga department na apektado nun, no, kailangan magkaroon din ng assessment, no, as to mata-target pa rin ba nila yung kanilang output, kung etong bagong equipment ang gagamitin, wala bang magiging problema, so on and so forth. Similarly, Quality Control Department would be interested in knowing whether new machinery would produce goods of adequate quality. So si Quality Control Department naman, titingnan niya kung ganun pa rin ba, no? Quality goods pa rin ba ang magagawa ng equipment na yon. So you see, class, all these departments are all interrelated, no? So yung isang buying decision mo, makakaapekto, no, sa maraming departments. So companies have formalized the purchase function by establishing purchase departments. Sorry, class. Class, naririnig pa ba ako? Ang ingay eh.
Yes po. Yes, ma'am.
Oo. Maulan na rin dyan sa inyo.
Medyo lang.
Dito ang lakas. Lalo na mga bubong na yun. Mga bubong na ng kapitbahay yung nandito sa taas ng bahay ko. Kaya dinig na dinig yung ulan. Pasensya na ha kung maingay. Okay, so moving on.
Okay lang, ma'am.
Parang marami tayong aberya ngayong araw na to. Okay. Ayaw din niya mag-move on. Nahirapan siya mag-move on. Ayan. Next is the risk. So in the industrial market, so ito yung other term class for organizational or business market. So tawag din natin dyan, industrial market. So buyers and sellers enter into contracts before the product is made. So kontrata muna bago gawin yung product. So suppliers may be selected and given long-term contracts for components for products which are still at the development stage. The seller is expected to contribute to the designing of the particular component, and in some cases, the entire designing of the component may be left to him. So remember yung example natin before, si Corning tsaka si Apple, no? So they work hand in hand. Kung ano yung gusto ng mga customers class, no? Binibigay yun ni Apple kay Corning para doon sa kanilang touchscreens, no? So you see, kailangan meron talagang bond, merong partnership between the seller and the buyer, no? Para makapag-come up tayo ng quality products, no? Not just for the company, but especially class for the satisfaction of the needs and wants of our dear customers. So, Mahindra and Mahindra, for instance, while designing its multi-utility vehicle, Scorpio, for the Indian market, involved suppliers in the design phase and awarded them long-term contracts. So, pinaubayan nila sa kanilang supplier, yung Mahindra class, no, yung paggawa ng vehicle. This is intended for the Indian market. Okay, so syempre, kung ano yung preferences ng bansa na yon, ng customers na yon, so sinunod. Okay, so kailangan talaga may close cooperation and monitoring between the two, seller and the buyer. So products are technical in nature and the seller may face unforeseen problems once work starts. The final product design and development may take longer than planned, and the supplier may have committed resources in terms of buying equipments and hiring relevant people. Next is buying to specific requirements. So business buyers design product specifications and ask suppliers to make their products to meet those specifications. So in consumer markets, the product is developed to meet the need or a need of a market segment, but meeting individual needs is prohibitively expensive. So sa ginagawa naman class sa consumer markets, yung tayo na yon, no? So ginugrupo natin ang consumers depende sa kanilang profile. Halimbawa, as to demographic, as to behavioral, as to psychographic, ano? So, bakit natin ginugrupo? Bakit natin sinesegment? Because we assume na kung belong sila sa isang segment as if they have the same preferences. But, kung gusto mong i-satisfy yung individual needs, medyo mahal yun, class. Halimbawa, gusto mo sa damit, wala kang kapareho. So, syempre, mas mahal yon kasi hindi na magbebenta yung company ng ibang design na ganon, ikaw lang. So, bibilhin mo yun sa kanila. So, medyo expensive pagka ganon. So, the customized products makes it imperative for a close long-term supplier-buyer relationship. For instance, if the seller is selling a heavy equipment customized for the buyer, and if the buyer refuses to buy the equipment for some reason, for instance, shift in consumer preferences for the goods sold by the buyer, rendering the equipment being bought redundant, the seller may not be able to get another buyer for it. So sabi natin kanina, meeting individual needs, halimbawa do sa equipment, no? Kinostomize mo na seller para mag-fit dun sa gusto ni buyer, and then suddenly nagkaroon ng change of mind. So how are you going to sell that to other people, other consumers kung nagkaroon na ng modification? So kaya sabi nga natin kanina, beforehand, no, bago gawin yung product, kailangan may contract para protected ang both parties, no? Si seller tsaka si buyer. Alright, so reciprocal buying. In some situations, buyers may demand that sellers buy some of their products in return for securing the order. So, kukuha ka ng supply sa limbawa sa isang company, tapos sasabihan mo sila, o sige, sa'yo ako kukuha kung afterwards, sa akin ka din kukuha ng product na ginagawa ko. So, chances of reciprocal buying increase when the two partners have diversified businesses. So an automobile manufacturer may insist that the computer manufacturer from whom they plan to buy their computer should buy its cars for their employees. So, halimbawa, bagong tayo akong organization, kailangan ko ng mga computers for my staff. So, lalapit ako sa isang computer manufacturer, so sabihan ko siya, okay, sa iyo ako kukuha, provided sa akin ka din kumuha ng sasakyan. Halimbawa, sabi ni automobile manufacturer. So, nagkakaroon ngayon ng reciprocal buying. Okay? So, minsan, wini-weigh natin yung mga bagay-bagay. So, kung kailangan ko nga naman ng sasakyan, why not? So, sige, nagkakaroon ng transaction between them. So, we call that reciprocal buying. Derived demand. So, the demand for business goods are derived from the demand for consumer goods. Suppliers should monitor emerging needs and tastes of consumers to be able to forecast what their business customers would buy. The buyer may give total responsibility of a component to a supplier. So under such circumstances, the buyer loses internal competence and market knowledge about that particular component. In such cases, the supplier should feel responsible for making improvements in the component and tracking changing consumer needs. The component may be so important in the configuration of the final product that the quality of the component may be the differentiating factor for the product. So under such circumstances, the buyer becomes dependent on the seller to provide competitive advantages for his product. So we are expecting from the seller nothing but a quality product. So there is a tendency for demand for some industrial goods and services to be more volatile than for consumer goods and services. So ibig sabihin, masyadong apektado ng movement in the market. So this means that if the demand for the consumer goods goes up by, say, 10%, the demand for equipment and material used is in making that product go up by much more than 10%. In the reverse case, if the demand for the consumer goods goes down by, say, 10%, the demand for equipment and material used in making it will go down by much more than 10%. Next is negotiation. So because of the existence of the powerful buyers and sellers, and the size and complexity of business buying, negotiation is important. Yung pag-uusap. So maraming pwedeng i-negotiate class, no? The product itself, the price, no? The delivery, etc. So for complex and customized equipments, as our example here, there is a lot of dialogue between the buyer and seller about actual requirements and specifications. So the seller will need to understand the exact requirements, and this may require plant visits and lot of discussion with people of various functional areas. So bago pa kayo makapag-deal, no, marami munang pagdadaanan na negosasyon, checking, no, assessment, evaluation, etc. So the seller will proceed to make the equipment only when the specifications have been agreed upon by both parties. So kung magkasundo na, that's the only time na pwede na mag-proceed. So price also has to be negotiated, so as I've mentioned earlier. So since standard equipment is rarely being sold, price depends on the features demanded by the buyer, materials used in making the equipment, and of course, the technological sophistication of the equipment. So yun yung mga bagay na nakapag-contribute sa presyo class. So another point of negotiation would be the date of the delivery of the equipment. The buyer would like the equipment to be delivered to match his business cycle. So gusto niya, mapakinabangan niya na agad. So if this happens to be immediate, madalian, the seller would face problems in delivering the equipment. So kaya nga class, 'di ba, pagka sa delivery, pag yan ay rush, kadalasan nanghihingi si seller ng extra na fee para ma-deliver sa iyo 'yon. Kasi intindihin din natin na baka mamaya yung kanilang delivery cars, halimbawa, ay syempre busy, sineschedule kasi ang delivery, tapos ikaw gusto mo ngayon na. So, gagawa ng paraan si seller, and that would entail extra expenses on his part. Kaya nag-a-ask talaga siya ng extra payment for that. So, the seller and buyer would have to agree upon a delivery date that enables the buyer to catch his business cycle and does not increase cost for the seller due to expediting the order. So pag pinabilisan mo yung pag-order o pagpapa-deliver, okay, mas mainam pa din both parties, seller and buyer, walang mai-incur na matatamo na extra expenses or charges. But kadalasan talaga meron at meron. So next, types of decisions and the decision-making process. Supplier development is the systematic development of networks of supplier partners to ensure an appropriate and dependable supply and materials that they will use in making their own products or resell. For a while class, ano lang. Okay. So major types of buying situations. So first, we have straight rebuy. So it is a routine purchase decision such as reorder without any modification. So kung ano yung in-order mo dati, no, uulitin mo lang, wala kang binago, we call that straight rebuy. Pero kung meron ka ng binago from that previous purchase, no, meron ka ng specifications, gusto mo ibang presyo na, no, may ibang terms or suppliers, for instance, so we call that modified rebuy. So it is a purchase decision that requires some research where the buyer wants to modify the product specification, the price, terms, or suppliers. New task. So it is a purchase decision that requires thorough research, such as a new product. So system selling involves the purchase of a package solution from a single seller. So two-step process of selling are interlocking products, system of production, inventory or inventory control, distribution, and other services to meet the buyer's need for a smooth running operation. So who are the participants in the business buying process? So we have this collective term here, class, the buying center. So It is all of the individuals, no? It refers to all individuals and units that participate in the business decision-making process. Who are them? No? Who are they? Users, influencers, buyers, deciders, and the so-called gatekeepers. So later we'll define each of them. So buying center provides a major challenge. So who participates in the process have their relative authority. So what evaluation criteria its participants uses, and also you have to consider the informal participants. So when you speak of users class, it refers to those that will use the product or service. For influencers, they help define specifications and provide information for evaluating alternatives. Buyers have formal authority to select the supplier and arrange terms of purchase. Deciders have formal or informal power to select and approve final suppliers. And then lastly, the gatekeepers control the flow of information. So major influences on business buyers, we have two factors here, class, the economic and personal factors. Under economic factors, we have price and service, and emotion for the personal factor. As to environmental factors, we have 8, demand for product, economic outlook, anong hinaharap na ekonomiya class, cost of money, resource availability, technology, culture, politics, and competition. As to organizational factors, we have 5. The company objectives, policies, procedures, structure, and the systems. As to interpersonal factors that influence business buyers class, we have motives, perceptions, preferences, age, income, education, and attitude toward risk. So we go now to the buying process. Paano ba nagkakaroon ng pagbili? So it all starts with general need. So this is the description, describes the characteristics and quantity of the needed item. Ano ba yung kailangan? Ano ba yung kailangan bilhin? Ilan ang kailangan? Okay? So next, product specification. It describes the technical criteria. So kung kailangan ko ng equipment, anong klase? Gaano kalaki, anong kulay, anong sukat, no? So on and so forth. So that's all under the product specification. Next also is the value analysis. It is an approach to cost reduction where components are studied to determine if they can be redesigned, standardized, or made with less costly methods of production. So ang goal natin dito ay makakuha ng equipment, in our example, sa mas mababang halaga. So let's try to determine kung kaya ba siyang i-redesign in such a way na mapapababa natin presyo, no? O kaya naman gumamit ng ibang materials na hindi naman at stake ang quality pero mas mababa. Kasi remember class, kung mapapababa natin ang cost of production, mapapababa din natin ang presyo. Okay, so that's third, value analysis. Then, followed by supplier search. Involves compiling a list of qualified suppliers. So, you look for qualified suppliers, meaning those suppliers that were already established, their reputation, no, their credibility. So, you have to compile the list of that. And then afterwards, ask for proposal. So this is the process of requesting proposals from qualified suppliers. So from there, pwede ka na ngayon mag-select ng supplier. So this is the process when the buying center creates a list of desired supplier attributes and negotiates with preferred suppliers for favorable terms and conditions. So pag nakapili ka na class ng supplier mo, next is order routine specification. So it is the final order with the chosen supplier and list of all the specifications and terms of the purchase. And then afterwards, pag na-deliver na, no, nangyari na yung transaction, last is the performance review. So it involves a critique of supplier performance to the purchase terms. So, kailangan ma-evaluate mo, tama ba yung na-deliver sa'yo, on time ba, no? Wala bang mali, no? Wala bang may sira, etc. Next is e-procurement. So, this is online purchasing. Class E is, it refers to electronic. So, that refers to online purchasing, using company buying sites, or extranet. So, extranet is an intranet that can be partially accessed by authorized outside users, enabling businesses to exchange information over the internet securely. So what are the advantages of that? So access to new suppliers, no? Available lahat ng data ng supplier, so madali mong ma-access yon. Lower cost, you don't need to go to the location of the suppliers just to check, no, their supplies o kung ano man yung mga ino-offer nila. You can check that online. Then speeds order processing and delivery, shares information, sales, service, and support. So some of the disadvantages naman, class, no, it can erode relationships as buyers search for new suppliers. So yun na-establish na relationship between seller and buyer, madali siyang nawawala kasi marami ka na nakikitang available na suppliers. And of course, issue din dito is the security. Since this is electronic, online, so yung mga pag-access sa information, no, yung mga details na online, o pwede ding at stake yun. Okay? So, let's proceed now to institutional markets. Ano ba mga institutional markets? So, it consists of hospitals, nursing homes, and prisons that provide goods and services to people in their care. So, tawag lang natin dito, institutional markets, kung meron silang inaalagaan, no, ng mga tao and nagpo-procure sila ng goods or services intended for the people class in their care. So normally, ang characteristics ng institutional markets ay they have low budgets and they have captive audience. Yung nasa poder nila class, yung inaalagaan nila, no, yung binibigyan nila ng goods and services. So that is institutional market. So pwede din siguro dito yung mga orphanages, no? So nasa captivity nila yung kanilang inaalagaan. How about government markets? So ito na yung government class. So it tends to favor domestic suppliers and require suppliers to submit bids and normally award to the lowest bidder. So sa government class, pag may kailangan, hindi agad-agad na nakikipag-deal. Kailangan magkaroon muna ng bidding. Kasi ang goal natin dito, no, ng government ay makatipid. So kung sino sa kanilang supplier ang makakapag-offer ng same product in a much lower price, doon sa kanya i-award. So it is carefully monitored, affected by similar environmental factors, good credit, non-economic factors, minority and depressed suppliers, and small businesses. So those things are also considered. So what is consumer buying behavior? So it refers, class, to the buying behavior of final consumer, individuals and households who buy goods and services for their personal consumption. So it is all of these final consumers that make up the consumer market. So again, consumer market ka, kasama ka doon kung bumibili ka ng mga bagay-bagay, no, goods, services for your personal use, consumption. So consumers around the world vary tremendously in age, income, educational level, and taste. Therefore, marketers need to satisfy consumer needs, and in order to do this, they need to understand the consumers rather, or buyers' behavior. If customers are satisfied, customers will buy more of a company's product. So alam naman natin yan, pag satisfied, bibili at bibili pa sila doon sa products ng company. They will advocate or talk favorably about the companies and company's product. They may advise the company for improvement. They give little attention to other companies and their goods. And then, finally, they may buy new products of the company. Now, for question.